podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet, and we've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go through to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast, Friday, April the 12th. And don't I feel like a fool today? Liverpool 0, Atalanta 3. Jesus wept. We did have 3 other games in the competition last night. I think I predicted the scoreline in 2 of them correctly, or at least the winner in 2 of them correctly. Leverkusen did beat West Ham 2-0. Jonas Hoffmann and Victor Boniface with the goals, neither of whom had started, both of whom were introduced late on. Yet another somewhat underwhelming Leverkusen performance. West Ham massively missing Jared Bowen and unusually playing a back 3, including Aaron Cresswell. If you're going to play a back 3, Naif Agard needs to be in that back 3. There's absolutely no world in which he's not your best centre-back and shouldn't be starting on the left side. West Ham should have gone 1-up through Mohamed Kudus and should have had a penalty when Jonathan Tah tried to undress Mikel Antonio. But likewise, Leverkusen did have some decent chances. Patrick Schick had a good chance. Grimaldo tested the goalkeeper. Their set pieces caused West Ham a lot of problems. But ultimately, I think Leverkusen deserved the win. West Ham only had 1 shot in the game, which was that Kudus shot, whereas Leverkusen had 33 shots in the game, had 13 on target, kept Fabianski busy. Now, a lot of them were straight at him, or were going wide and he got a fingertip to them. But he did make some decent saves to his credit, but it's a very, very weak performance from West Ham. Benfica 2, Marseille 1. Rafa Silva and Angel Di Maria with the goals for Benfica. Aubameyang pulled one back for Marseille, which sets up an interesting second leg. Milan 0, Roma 1. Very surprised by this one personally. Now, maybe I shouldn't be. As I said yesterday, Roma are playing really, really well under Daniele De Rossi. And it is entirely possible that they come through this tie. They have a lot of good players. When you look at the team last night, you've got solid defenders, solid midfielders, and good attackers. You've also got Tammy Abraham, who's back, coming off the bench. Diego Llorente come off the bench. Hassim Aouar came off the bench. You had Rick Karsdorp, Renato Sanchez, and Zalewski on the bench who didn't play, and Angelino as well. So they've got some good players there. But I do just think that Milan team should have too much for them. I do think Milan are underperforming. I think it's time for a change with regards to the manager. They were missing a couple of important players last night, notably Fikayo Tomori. But I mean, they've got an excellent goalkeeper, a great left back. When Tomori plays, him and Thiaw, I think, could be a really good centre-back pairing. Benacer is tremendous. Reinders looks a good player. Pulisic and Leao. They need to address their 9 and 10 positions. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for me, a club like Milan shouldn't have Ruben Loftus-Cheek playing for them. Calabria should not be in the team. He certainly shouldn't be club captain. Um, there's a lot of potential with Milan, but there's still a lot of work to do as well. But Roma take a big advantage going home with a 1-0 lead. And at the moment, I think you'd fancy them. Just the way they're playing, you'd fancy them to hold out at home, even just get a draw and go through. Leverkusen winning 2-0 and West Ham being so poor really strikes me as big advantage. Leverkusen, Atalanta, I mean, if they don't beat Liverpool and knock them out, if they don't knock them out, I mean, even they can lose 2-0 and still go through. So if they go out at this point, it's a shambles for them. I still back Marseille to beat Benfica, given they're only 1 goal down, going home for the second leg. That's a great crowd. I think I'm still going to stick with Marseille there. In the Conference League, Victoria Pleasant and Fiorentina played out a 0-0 draw. Club Brugge beat PAOK 1-0. Northern Jackers starting in goal, or Jackers starting in goal, I was a little bit surprised by with Club Brugge. No Mignolet, not available, which I wasn't aware of. But I mean, why on earth did they ever buy Joseph Bursic? I just don't get it. Maybe that was just Scotty Two Coats doing Scotty Two Coats things. But a good win for Bruges. The second leg will be tough, though. PAOK have been really good domestically this year. I think they'll fancy their chances going home. Olympiacos 3, Fenerbahce 2. Olympiacos were 3-0 up. For Tunis, Jovetic and Chiquinho with the goals. Fenerbahce fought back. A Dusan Tadic penalty and Kvechi on 74 minutes, giving them a real opportunity now, where they looked dead and buried when the third goal went in. I think they're favourites to come through in that tie, but both teams are a bit nuts, so you wouldn't quite know. Last one then, Aston Villa 2, Lille 1. Ollie Watkins probably should have scored twice before he scored on 13 minutes. Villa started really, really well, and Watkins' pace and physicality was causing Lille a lot of trouble. Then they didn't manage to find a second goal until the 56th minute. They had a couple of good opportunities, but Lille were really dangerous and were causing Villa problems on the counter, and Martinez was really having to earn his pay. It was interesting to see Lille go there and have so much more of the ball, but still have their best moments come from counters. It was quite an interesting tactical battle. John McGinn made it 2 on 56, a nice curled daisy cutter from just outside the box. Lille thought they had gotten one back, but it was ruled out for offside. But Diakate scored from a header off a set piece on 84 to really make that a very interesting second leg. And that now, Villa, I think, would have preferred to have had a 2-goal lead. Well, they definitely would have preferred. 1-goal lead just feels... It doesn't feel like it's enough. And I think Villa should be winning this competition. Now it feels like they're in peril. And there's been a lot of talk about a 5th Champions League spot for next season. And right now, England sits second in terms of getting a 5th spot. 2 countries will get one. England sits second right now. But if Aston Villa, Liverpool and West Ham all go out, and Fiorentina and Atalanta and one of Roma or Milan advance, that's going to be a big swing on that. There's also the factor of the Champions League, where it's very possible that Arsenal go out, having drawn 2-2 at home with Bayern. And it's also possible that City go out. Like, it is possible that Real go to the Etihad and beat them. So that's something to factor in as well. Now, There are no Italian teams obviously left in the Champions League, but still, if they get 1 through in the Conference League and 2 through in the Europa League, and England, say, only get City through, that's really going to swing the balance. I believe it as, like, to my working knowledge of what the coefficient is based on, that is going to swing it in the favor of the Italians. So that could then cost either Villa. Like, Villa going out could hit Villa twice. Number one, they wouldn't win this competition. And number two, it might cost them a Champions League spot for next year, because they'd be the team right now that would get that fifth spot. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Right. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the championship fixtures for this weekend, because why wouldn't we? Now, this section of our podcast is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet. And Sky Bet appreciates the lengths we all go to supporting our teams through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Whether you're a season ticket holder standing proud in all weathers, or someone who drives the football conversation online, Sky Bet is here for you. And into the championship fixtures we go. So, as I mentioned the other day, the race for automatic promotion is very, very tight, and will take another twist tonight when Plymouth take on Leicester City. 8 p.m. kickoff, definitely worth your while watching that. Leicester currently sit top and have a game in hand, but they are only top on goal difference, and Leeds are only a further point behind. Speaking of Leeds, they will play Blackburn Rovers tomorrow at 12:30. So you don't fancy watching the early kickoff in the Premier League, you do have a championship option. At 3 p.m, we get Preston versus Norwich, Millwall versus Cardiff City, Birmingham City versus Coventry City, Southampton versus Watford, Bristol City versus Huddersfield, Swansea versus Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday versus Sheffield United, Hull City versus QPR, Ipswich Town versus Middlesbrough, and West Brom versus Sunderland. So those are all your Sky Bet championship games. Tomorrow, obviously, League One, also a busy weekend, and Portsmouth capable of securing not only automatic promotion, but potentially the league title this weekend if results go their way. So, all kickoffs are 3 p.m. tomorrow. Port Vale versus Exeter City, Shrewsbury versus Wickham, Cheltenham versus Bristol Rovers, Barnsley versus Reading, Oxford United versus Peterborough, Stevenage versus Burton, Derby against Leyton Orient, which is a huge game in terms of automatic promotion, Carlisle versus Blackpool, Fleetwood Town versus Northampton Town, Cambridge United Charlton, Lincoln City Wigan Athletic, and the big game of the day in League One is Bolton Wanderers playing host to Portsmouth. So that is Bolton in third, currently with 4 games left, 9 points behind Pompey. So should Pompey win that game, they will be automatically promoted. If Derby lose and Pompey win, Pompey will be league champions. They'll be 10 points clear, and Derby would only have 2 games left after this weekend. The Derby need to win just to keep the pressure on. But for Derby, I think promotion is all that matters. Given what they've been through in recent years, all they will care about is getting promoted. And then in Sky Bet's League 2, Stockport 4 points clear at the top. Wrexham in good position to join them for automatic promotion. And then Mansfield looking like the third team to come up automatically. All kickoffs are 3 p.m. Newport County versus Tranmere, Stockport versus Morecambe, Salford versus Bradford, Crewe Alexandra versus Grimsby Town, Gillingham versus Barrow, Crawley versus Colchester, Swindon versus AFC Wimbledon. Huge game for AFC Wimbledon, who are trying to get into those playoff spots. Harrogate against Sutton, Wrexham against Forest Green. That should be a win for Wrexham, given Forest Green are bottom. Walsall against Notts County. Notts County, of course, remember, also promoted last year from non-league. And while they're not having the same type of season as Wrexham, they're still doing pretty well. They sit 15th. They're safe as houses from relegation. They will stay in the Football League, and that really is mission accomplished for them. Doncaster versus Accrington Stanley. And MK Dons versus Mansfield is a massive, massive game, because if MK Dons win, and it is in Milton Keynes, they will jump Mansfield and go a point ahead of them. Now, Mansfield would still have a game in hand, but you'd rather have the points on the board at this point in the season. So, big games everywhere in the lower leagues. After the break, I'm going to do the news and gossip, and then we'll have another break. We'll be joined by Guy Drinkle, at which point we will go through all 10 Premier League games for this weekend. I will see you after this. Right, welcome back. First thing I want to do is draw people's attention to a really good piece written on the BBC website regarding Hillsborough and the 1989 disaster that took place there. This piece was written by Andrew Alloa, Sarah Julian, and Nicola Gilroy, and it's titled How Liverpool and Nottingham Forest Fans Found Common Ground in Tragedy. We are approaching the 35th anniversary of the Hillsborough tragedy, so please do go and read that piece if you get a chance. Pep Guardiola has said that he is willing to rest Rodri. Now, City have not done well without Rodri this season, but they do have a few games coming up where you'd look at it and think that's probably one where he could sit out. Rodri has recently complained of feeling tired, and he's played an awful lot of football this year, so he probably does need a rest. The key match incidents panel have deemed that the controversial decision to deny Wolves stoppage time equaliser against West Ham was correct. Now, Gary O'Neill said it was possibly the worst decision he'd ever seen when Max Kilman's header was... He found the net with the header, but was actually Tawanda Chirawa who was offside. I think I said it was Boubacar Traore the other day. He was offside and blocking the view of Lucas Fabianski. Now, as I said at the time, Kilman heads the ball at the same time Fabianski takes a step to his left. Fabianski moved behind the forward. The forward did not move in front of him. That's why I thought it was maybe a little bit questionable. But like I said at the time, he was definitely offside and interfering with play. I just felt like maybe there was a bit of common sense could have been applied, but we don't get that very often in football. Harry Kane's children, his three eldest children, were taken to hospital yesterday with minor injuries after being involved in a 3-car crash in Germany. Nobody was seriously injured in the accident, and a spokesman for Kane said that the kids are fine and only went to hospital for a routine checkup. Those kids are aged between 3 and 7. Scary moment for the Kane family, and hopefully, well, no, thankfully, everybody is okay. This is interesting. AC Milan are to introduce NBA-style pitch-side seats between the dugouts at the San Siro. Milan say they hope to replicate the NBA experience by introducing new seating between the dugouts at the San Siro. The Italian club said the new seats offer the closest ever view of the pitch, taking inspiration from the courtside seats at basketball games. Other perks include padded seats, because, you wouldn't want your bum getting sore, and a private concierge. Oh, aren't we fancy? Getting yourself some champagne and some prawn sandwiches delivered while you sit there. And everybody in the stands just looks at you and think, he's a prick. Wouldn't want to be his mate. Not at all. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, this wouldn't be for me now at all. Like, it's pretty cool. At least they're not on the grass. Like, you're still a decent way. Like, it's not like the NBA at all. You're still probably 15 feet from the touchline because you're behind where the tunnel entrance is. Now, it's a cool view. It is a cool view. But everyone behind you is going to be looking at you with your concierge and thinking you're just a prick. And also, I've been at that stadium. People tend to bang on that glass quite a lot. And that would get very, very annoying. The glass is right behind your padded seat. So, although actually, no, it's not. They've changed it. So that's glass. That's a bar behind you. That's a private members bar behind you. Where that is. Oh, okay. So that's not too bad. It still wouldn't be for me. Like, NBA courtside is very different. You're literally right beside the court. You can put your foot onto the court if you stretch your legs out. This is a very different thing, but it might catch on in some places. It certainly wouldn't in England. You'd be told very quickly what people thought of you. Gossip. Manchester City are leading the race to sign Bayern Munich's 21-year-old Germany forward Jamal Musiala, but Liverpool, Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain are all interested. Who wrote this piece? I just love Barcelona, Miguel Delaney, of course. I just love Barcelona's name being thrown into these things as if there's any possibility they can find the money. Brentford expect Ivan Toney to leave this summer, but the Bees will demand 50 million. With Manchester United among several clubs tracking the 28-year-old. As I've said before, I'd still love him to go to Villa. I think him and Watkins would just be horrible to play against and super effective. I think that could be not as good, but a similar pairing to Kane and Son. Watkins has that Son type of second striker in the channels game, and Tony's incredible back to goal like Kane. Again, not as good as Kane, but it's a great passer of the ball as well. I think that would work really, really well, personally. Sir Jim Radcliffe has held face-to-face talks with Newcastle co-owner Amanda Staveley in an attempt to reach an agreement on Dan Ashworth. The recent good form of Kai Havertz has made the Gunners rethink their summer transfer plans, with the move for Tony now unlikely. I would also imagine the lack of cash has made them rethink their plans. Raphael Varane will not be offered a new contract on the same money by Manchester United and is expected to leave the club when his current deal expires. It had been rumoured they were going to offer him a pay drop for a 2-year contract, but he wasn't going to take that. Arsenal's 20-year-old English midfielder Charlie Patino is set for a summer transfer abroad. Liverpool have agreed a deal in principle with Ruben Amorim. Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou has made a centre-back one of his transfer priorities, and Piero Hincapié is on the shortlist. He does need a left-footed centre-back, but I would say, to be fair, because you've got Dragusin. The only thing is, Hincapié Romero would be a fairly short centre-back pairing and a little bit over-aggressive. I'd be more inclined to look at someone like a Jacob Greaves, who I mentioned yesterday for Everton, as a left-footed backup to Mickey van de Ven. Or, I mean, there's a bunch of them around Europe. Arteta, one that would work. Spurs are interested in Mohamed Amoura this summer, who plays for Union in Belgium, but faced competition from West Ham and Wolves. Man City are set to beat Liverpool and Arsenal to the signing of Gustavo Nunes of Gremio. Never heard of him. Certainly never heard of Liverpool being interested in him. Napoli will not take up the option to sign Leander Dendoncker in a permanent deal. Not surprising. Chelsea could look to move on 11 players this summer as they attempt to trim their large squad, with Conor Gallagher among those set to leave. Barcelona are prepared to reject an offer for Pedri from PSG and offer him a new contract. Sporting Lisbon and Sweden striker Victor Gyökeres is a top target for Arsenal, but the 25-year-old's contract contains an 85 million release clause. I mean, I don't know who Suraj Radia is, but if he's writing for Football Transfers, I'm just going to deem him a spoofer. Manchester United and Newcastle have initiated talks with Adrian Rabiot. Okay. Newcastle's bosses have injected 37 million into the club in the form of a new share issue, although it is not clear whether that money will contribute towards the summer transfer window. Right then, we will go to break, and when we come back, young Drinkle will join us, so I will see you after this. Right, welcome back. So, as always, of a Friday, joined by Guy Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Didn't watch any football last night.
There was no football on last night, is actually what happened. How's the weather where you are? You want to know how wet it is where I am, Guy? You don't know how much rain we've had in the last 24 hours. There was a duck in my garden earlier on. I do not live near a pond or a sheep yesterday and a duck today. Don't live near any ponds or lakes or rivers. There is a stream, but ducks don't live on streams. But I had a duck in my garden today, which did not go down well with the boss of the house. Right, we have 10 Premier League games this weekend. Where are we starting?
We are starting in my neck of the woods in the northeast. Newcastle hosting Spurs, Dave, just to get the table up. I mean, it feels like a more important game for Tottenham. Ooh, I didn't realise they're actually in fourth now. Congratulations to them. They obviously have a game in hand in Villa, but they do have to keep that gap up, and we know the inconsistencies of both sides, whereas Newcastle kind of playing for a Europa League spot and a Conference League spot, but Spurs getting top four is much more important than any of that business, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But an interesting game nevertheless.
Yeah, a huge game for both sides, but like you said, more important for Tottenham because this could be the opportunity to open a 3-point gap while still having that game in hand, because obviously Villa have a very tough game on Sunday. So huge chance for Spurs. And with the Toon, they've just been so inconsistent this season. But last 10 games, Newcastle are actually fifth in the form table with 5 wins, 3 draws, and 2 defeats. But their home form is only 11th. And last year, obviously, their home form was incredible, but only 2 wins from the last 6 games, 3 draws, 1 defeat. Spurs over the last 10 games are 4th, 6 wins, 2 draws. And their away form, like Newcastle's home form, very inconsistent. 1 win, 3 draws, 2 defeats. In terms of injuries, Newcastle are just decimated at the moment. No Botman, no Lascelles, no Tonali, no Miley, no Wilson, no Joelinton, no Pope, no Almiron, no Willock, no Livramento, no Trippier. Lewis Hall, a doubt, hasn't trained all week. And Matt Targett, a significant doubt, very unlikely to play. So that's 13 players in total. And Toon don't exactly have the biggest squad. Spurs are in good shape, though. Fraser Forster's out. He wouldn't be playing anyway. Ryan Sessegnon's out. Wouldn't be playing anyway. Manor Solomon is out. He'd be a squad player. Richarlison is the only player they're without at the moment, but they do have decent enough options with Brennan Johnson able to come in, Kulusevski's son, obviously Maddison, and Timo Werner. So they're in pretty good shape. For that reason, I'm going to back Spurs to win. I just feel like Newcastle's injuries are too much at the moment. And I'm going to back Spurs to go there and win a fairly wild 3-2.
Yeah, none of us predicting Newcastle in boring games anymore. It's just not the way. Moving on then, Brentford against Sheffield United, Dave. This feels like a game where Brentford could put maybe 1 foot and a couple of toes into Premier League survival. Maybe not quite the 2 feet, but it's a huge game for them, and it's obviously a very big opportunity for them to near enough be safe. Whereas Sheffield, maybe more so 1 foot in the Championship than anywhere close to survival. But it feels like a massive opportunity for Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, Sheffield United, 7 games left. They're 9 points behind Nottingham Forest and Luton. And their goal difference is so much worse than both of those teams. They're minus 16 for Forest, minus 20 for Luton. Sheffield United are minus 52. Like, that is horrendous. The only 2 clubs that you can add in the entire league to get a worse goal difference, actually, there's 3. You can add Burnley plus Luton or Burnley plus Crystal Palace, and that's it. And Burnley plus Crystal Palace is only 1 goal worse off than Sheffield United. The big thing for Sheffield United is, can they avoid conceding 16 goals in their last 7 games? 18 goals in their last 7 games and avoid hitting the 100 goals conceded mark. That's really all they have to play for at this point. They have 1 foot, a leg, a cheek of an arse, maybe the other cheek of the arse, but not quite the other leg in the Championship right now. They're as good as gone. But you're right about Brentford. This is a huge opportunity. Myself and Matchett were talking on Scouted today, and we were kind of saying maybe 34 points will be enough. If you get to there, you're probably guaranteed to stay up. It might even be a little bit less than that. A win here would put Brentford to 32 points. Now, form-wise, both of these are turgid. Brentford are 17th over the last 10 games. Sheffield United are 19th. Both of them have only won 1 game in their last 10. In the last 6 games, these are the bottom 2. Brentford 19th, Sheffield United 18th. No wins between them. Home form, Brentford 18th. 1 win in 6, 3 draws. Away form, Sheffield United surprisingly in 14th with a win and a draw. So potentially, Sheffield United might look at this one themselves as maybe 3 points, but then you look at the injuries. No Max Lowe, no Norrington Davies, no Chris Basham, no John Egan, no George Baldock, no Tom Davies, no Rian Brewster, no Daniel Jebison, and a significant doubt over Jack Robinson. For Brentford, they've obviously had a lot of injuries this season. No Josh Da Silva, no Aaron Hickey, no Rico Henry. They're now saying Aaron Hickey's unlikely to play again this year. No Ben Mee, he's done for the season. Norgard's a week away. Ethan Pinnock is back and Kevin Shade is back. So those are big deals for them.
That'd be fun.
And Shade could be what they've been missing in attack. Now, he'd probably be coming off the bench, but just that late change of game pace could be interesting. I'm going to go the Brentford win, largely because this is must win for them. When you start looking at their fixtures, this is one of the opportunities they have where they get Sheffield United home, Luton away, win both, you're safe. But then they have to go to Everton, who will be desperate for points themselves, as will Luton, to be fair. Then you get Fulham home. That's potentially a win, because Fulham might be on the beach. But I wouldn't fancy them to go to Bournemouth and get much. And they finished last day with Newcastle, and it will just depend on what Newcastle need. But get your points on the board now and don't be relying on results after this. Get it sorted. Beat Sheffield United. And then, realistically, if you can beat either Luton or Everton, you're going to be safe. So Sheffield United to win this. Sorry, Brentford to win this game 2-1, and Sheffield United to move a step closer to relegation.
Yeah, you'd think 5 points out of the next three should keep them up. You'd think.
Yeah.
Burnley against Brighton, Dave. Brighton, probably. I mean, they could technically still get Europa spots, but it's a bit of a stretch now. There's Chelsea now in the conversation, and Chelsea have a game in hand, 2 games in hand on West Ham, in fact. So maybe Brighton, not on the beach because they do technically have something to play for, but their season's kind of petered out after the Europa League exit. Whereas Burnley, not quite as one-footed, well, whole body in the
only one cheek of the arse in the championship for them. Yeah, 19 points. It's not acceptable. But they've only lost one of their last 5. So that's not terrible. And they've had a couple of decent results in there. It does feel like Brighton. I think a lot of the chatter around De Zerbi might have seeped into the players.
Yeah.
And some of them are now unsure. Is he going to be here next season? What's the point in continuing to play for him if he's going to walk out on us? Because he's been quite chatty about it all as well. Last 10 games, Brighton are 13th, 3 wins, 2 draws. That's not good. Burnley 18th, 1 win, 4 draws. That's really not good. Last 6 games, Brighton are 18th, 1 win and 2 draws. Burnley are 12th with a win and 3 draws. Burnley, over the last 6 games, better form than Manchester United. So there you go. Now, obviously, this game is an opportunity for Brighton to kind of re-establish themselves in the mix for European football. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for Burnley to maybe just claw back a bit of distance on Forest, on Luton, and maybe even on Everton, depending on how other results go. Home form, Burnley 19th, 1 win, 3 draws, not good. Away form, Brighton 15th, 1 win, 1 draw. Not good. Injury-wise, both of these teams have had their problems this year. Both have a lot of problems now. Burnley, no Aaron Ramsey. He is out until like November time. I think it's an ACL tear. Nathan Redmond, Luka Kulioshu, Dara O'Shea, Jordan Beyer, Amin Al-Dakil and Han-Noah Masenga all out. James Trafford is back, though, so we'll see if he comes back in. Obviously, massive mistake last weekend by Muric.
I think you got to keep Muric in, though, to be fair.
I think you do, because he has been playing well. Brighton, though, Solly March out for the season. Hinchelwood out for the season. Matoma almost certainly out for the season. Billy Gilmore out another month. Evan Ferguson out another couple of weeks. Adam Webster out another couple of weeks. James Milner, God knows. It was meant to be a couple of games. That was back in February. There's been no update since. But Tariq Lamptey and Julio Enciso both picked up injuries. So they're probably out of this one as well. So those are blows. Do you know what? I'm just going to go for the Burnley win. They're at home.
If
they're playing
do win,
well.
Dave, have you seen their fixtures? Survival's not the biggest stretch.
Let's have a look. Burnley. Sheffield United away, winnable. United away, you never know. A draw, not out of the question. They could definitely beat Newcastle at home. I'd expect them to lose at Spurs, but they can definitely beat Forest at home.
That last game's huge.
And that last game could be the one that decides it, because obviously Forest currently sitting 17th. Who else do Forest play is the question. So Wolves this weekend, Everton away, winnable, but City at home, that's a walloping. Sheffield United away, potentially a win, but you just don't know. Chelsea at home, I mean...
Depends on Chelsea's previous result.
It depends on who Chelsea play. Yeah, which Chelsea turns up. And then that could get really, really tasty at the bottom. So the other team then in consideration would be Luton Town. Now, obviously, they're getting spanked this weekend, but then they've got Brentford home. But then Wolves away, Everton home, West Ham away, Fulham home. That's not an easy run by any means. So, look, at the very least, Burnley might look at it and think, right, even if we go down, let's try and go down in 18th rather than 19th. Let's at least try and end the season on a bit of a high so we can take that into pre-season. I would look at their squad and guess that a lot of those players will still be there next season. Like, I don't see anybody in the Burnley squad, other than Datro Fofana and that who's in on loan. I don't see anyone that I would look at and think, well, he's definitely moving in the summer to a different Premier League team. Do you know? Like, they've got a lot of talented young players who I think they can bring down with them, add a couple more pieces, and maybe come back up in 12 months a lot stronger. Basically what I had hoped Southampton would do, which was bring those young players down, get them battle-hardened in the Championship, add a couple more young people, keep that mindset and that blueprint, and come back up with a team that was really ready to have a go at the Premier League. I hope Burnley do it. I really do. And like, Kolyosha will have some interest, but he's coming off a big injury. So, you know, Ramsey, the big injury, that'll keep him out for the summer, so no one's going to buy him. There's a few others there that are really talented, but I'd really like to see them just keep this group and try and go down, get a year in the Championship with them all together, get Company a bit more experience and maybe a bit less naive, and come back up and have a proper go at staying up.
Well, that's the thing. You mentioned they were quite mid-table in terms of form, so maybe it's taken too long, but at least it looks like he's learning. So, something to take anyway if they don't stay up. Next game, you kind of already mentioned, City hosting Luton. You can give your prediction as well.
I'll go 2-1 for Burnley.
Oh, sorry.
On that one. Yeah, so the next game, City Luton. Yeah, I mean, like, it's must win for City. And for Luton, I think the order of the day is just don't get demolished, because it might come down to goal difference with them and Forest. At the moment, it is goal difference. And Forest are 4 goals better off, but there's no guarantee Forest don't get walloped at some point between now and the end of the season, given the fixtures they have. Like, they also have to play City. So I think the order of the day for Luton is just try and spoil as much as you can and just not concede 4 goals.
Do you think Pep risks arresting Rodri because he has asked for a rest publicly, which is very strange?
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. I was doing the news in the last segment, and I was just thinking this might be the game to rest them, because if you look at the rest of their fixtures, Real he has to play. Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final. I mean, do you risk it? Are you happy enough to not?
Well, he rotated against Liverpool 2 years ago.
Yeah. But the treble, back-to-back trebles, I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
You can't really argue with that.
Can't really rest him against Brighton. Wouldn't rest him away to Forest, but maybe that's the other game you could rest him in. You'll have Champions League semi-finals if you get through against Real. Wolves home, I wouldn't rest him. Fulham away, you can't rest him. Spurs away, you definitely can't rest him. West Ham home on the final day, I don't think you can rest him there either. So it's this one and the Forest game, I would say, are the ones that you could probably take the risk. Definitely this one. Maybe the Forest
try
one.
Subbing him off now and again.
Yeah, just take him. Like, you have games wrapped up on the hour. Just take him off. I don't understand that. Like, there has been ways to mitigate, and City have just ignored it. Now, last 10 games, City are second in the form table. Luton are 20th in the form table. Last 6 games, City are second. Luton are 16th. Home form, City are only 4th, which is a surprise. 4 wins, 2 draws. Away form, Luton are 18th. No wins, 2 draws. Injuries, Luton have loads. Lockyer, Nakamba, Brown, Potts, Bell, Adebayo, Ogbena, Anderson, Kabore, who's owned by City so can't play, Lakonga and Osho all ruled out. And for City, Kyle Walker's still out. Nathan Aki is out. Foden should be okay. But like we said, there might be the resting of Rodri in this one. I'm just going to go City to win 3-0 and not overthink it.
Yeah, I'd probably think something similar. Next up, probably quite... maybe the one I'll watch at 3 o'clock. Forest hosting Wolves, Dave. I mean, Wolves' rivalry this season has been with referees. Or Gary O'Neill's has, anyway. Forest, mixed form. Tottenham eventually beat them last weekend, but a win before that against Fulham, because Fulham are weird. It almost feels like every time we talk about a team 16th and below, it's just a good opportunity, but Wolves are one of those sides where, I don't know, they look like they're due a win. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
No, I fully agree with that. They do. They've had some tough luck of late, and like you said, they've had some really questionable refereeing decisions go against them right from the first game of the season in that United game. If we look at the form table, last 10 games, Wolves are 11th, which, doesn't really represent who they are as a team. Although, to be fair, they are 11th in the league, yeah. So maybe it does. Forest are 14th over the last 10 games. Last 6, Wolves are 11th and Forest are 15th. Home form, Forest are 14th. Away form, Wolves are 8th, which is pretty good for them. 2 wins, 2 draws. Injury-wise, Forest are the healthiest they've been since coming up. Awoniyi is out. Nuno Tavares is out. Both of them are only about a couple of weeks away. Willy Bolly's probably done for the season. For Wolves, no Neto, no Bellegarde. Nuri is a doubt, which would be huge because he's been amazing for them this year. And Hwang is back, but I think they'll have to take it easy with him and just be really, really careful so he doesn't re-injure himself. Forest, like Brentford that we mentioned earlier, like this is kind of must win for them. As we were talking with Burnley as well, like if Burnley were to win and Forest were to lose, all of a sudden there's only 3 points. Forest would have a better goal difference, but you are playing with fire a little bit there. With Luton having such a tough game, it is an opportunity for Forest just to put a little bit of daylight between them and to throw a bunch of pressure on Everton, who don't play till Monday, because they could they'll jump above them with a win as well. And it might just put the nerves into Everton ahead of that game. Everton do have a game in hand on them, but again, they're Everton. They've won once since, December 6th or something? It took an absolute fluke of a goal. So I think I'll back Forest to win at home. Wolves are definitely the better team, but no Neto, a limited Hwang. They're struggling going forward. You can kind of see them having the hump a bit with everything and everybody. It's a pretty strong midfield on both sides. I think Gibbs White could be a difference maker here, so I'm going to go for Forest to win this game 2-1, because Chris Wood, remember, is in incredible form as well. 10 goals and assists in his last 10 games.
That is wild. when that deal got put through, everyone was like, that's a bad
Forest had immediate regret. He was garbage last season. They didn't want to keep him. They tried to sell him after having to buy him.
Himself.
Unbelievable.
Fair play. Where are we? Where are we, I should say in English. Bournemouth hosting United, Dave. I mean, Ariola's just got manager of the month, so now they're going to go on a 10-game losing streak. That seems to be how it works. So 2-1 Man United. Bournemouth have 25 shots, missed them all apart from one.
Yeah, Bournemouth hit the crossbar 4 times.
Yeah.
Onana plays the ball straight to Solanke, who falls over his own feet rather than putting it in the back of the net. And United spawn another undeserved win. Last 10 games, Bournemouth are 9th in the form table. United are 6th. Last 6 games, Bournemouth are 5th. United are 13th. So, yeah, United primed for victory in this one. Home form, Bournemouth are 8th. Away form, United are actually 5th, but they haven't won any of their last 3. Injury-wise, we know United have some injuries because they've been crying about them for weeks. Malacia, Shaw, Martinez, Lindelof, Varane, Evans, McTominay, Martial, all out. Rashford should be okay, though. Bournemouth, no Fredericks, no Sinistera. Meffam a doubt, Semenyo a major doubt, Adams a major doubt, and Tavernier out, which is a big one. And tough for Bournemouth. They've got limited quality. But they are in better form than United. I'm going to go 2-2. 2-2, a bit of fun for those watching on TV.
Brave that. Brave going against United. On to Sunday then, first televised game, Liverpool hosting Crystal Palace. Yeah, nice of Liverpool to have a week off, midweek off, because nothing happened yesterday. Palace, we mention it every week, loads of injuries kind of stopping any progress, even whilst Hodge was there, to be fair to him. It's just a tough time for Crystal Palace, but again, maybe not the best opportunity because they are playing Liverpool, but probably a win and a maybe even just a win away from safety. But Liverpool just have to win this game. I'd like them to win with a clean sheet and not look like they've never met each other. But at the minute, I'd still take that. But I'd like a comfortable 2-0 win. It won't happen, but I'd like that to happen.
I'd love a 2-0 win where absolutely nothing happens in the game.
Yeah, just a goal on 30 and a goal on 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't care who they come from. I don't care if they're own goals. Clean sheet should be the priority. Liverpool haven't played, obviously, since they played Sheffield United in the league. And no game last weekend either, you'll remember. That one postponed due to, I don't know, a stench of piss or something. No game in the week because of a stench of piss. Liverpool have just been turgid. Absolutely turgid. Great first half against United. Abysmal second half. Abysmal 90 minutes against an average Atalanta team. Just really, really poor stuff. Last 10 games, Liverpool are 3rd. Last 6 games, they're also 3rd. Home form, they are 1st. 5 wins and a draw. Palace, last 10 games, 15th. Last 6 games, 14th. Away form, the worst in the division. 2 draws and 4 wins. 2 draws and 4 defeats in their last 6, which probably means they're primed to come to Anfield and win 1-0. Injuries, Liverpool's looks good. No Matip, no Alcantara, Alisson about a week away. Everybody else is fit.
He said Trent wasn't
wasn't ready to play.
Yeah, that was weird.
I think he might be okay for 10 minutes tonight or a Sunday because it's 3 days later and he'll have a couple more days training. But he wasn't quite ready for the midweek game. Palace, no Sam Johnston, no Czech Doucouré, no Mark Guehi, no Rob Holding, no Chris Richards, no Raksaki, no Matthias Franke, and a doubt over Yarrow Riedewald.
A hell of a list.
A hell of a list. It's 2 of their 4 best players are out, Doucouré and Guehi. Another one isn't ready to play 90 minutes in Michael Olise, which again means that they're primed to win 1-0.
Yeah, and their 2 last big signings in Richards and No, Richards was last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, Richards and Franco. I
He's
think
still
Franco
probably
was
too
January.
money-wise, though. It's
Yeah,
probably too. Yeah.
and Franco was a big money
Yeah.
signing. They're both out. So with all of that said, we're going to go 1-0 Crystal Palace. That is
Absolutely.
the new method of predicting these games. Liverpool to lose all remaining fixtures. 1-0 Crystal Palace.
Sounds about right. I agree. Moving on, same time, both of these 2 o'clock, I should add. West Ham hosting Fulham, Dave. Rodrigo Muniz, player of the month, so he's never scoring again. How it works. West Ham seem like they're frustrated by Leverkusen, but Bayer Leverkusen do start playing at 90 minutes, seemingly. So, I mean, not the I haven't seen any highlights because football didn't exist last night, weirdly. Again, they just have to win if they are to get sixth. But I think seventh's not awful, but if they want to get back in the Europa League, it feels like these are the sort of game they have to win.
Yeah, I mean, they're at home. Fulham could well be on the beach. West Ham still have something to play for, as you said, sixth place. And they need to be picking up points because Chelsea have 2 games in hand on them. Newcastle could, in theory, string a run of wins together. So could Brighton. United, they're going to give you only so many gifts, and you're going to have to take one of them to go above them. But West Ham's form is not good. I know they did beat Wolves, but the draw with Spurs, defeat up at Toon, draw with Villa, draw with Burnley. It's just not good enough. They had 1 shot in the entire game last night. And they've also got to focus on that game because they do want to progress, and it's still there potentially. I mean, there's nothing to stop them going and beating Leverkusen 2-0 or 3-1 in the second leg and forcing extra time and potentially winning it on penalties with the home advantage. So you wonder, does he rotate a bit for this game and maybe just sort of give up on the league a little bit? We saw him do it last year. Just gave up on the league until they looked like they were going to get relegated.
You're probably leaving this summer anyway, so selfishly, why does he care if they qualify again?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the only thing he should be looking at is trying to win the Europa League. And with Liverpool getting battered last night, like, it really becomes wide open for them. If they could get
through, they knock out Leverkusen, yeah.
You get one of the Italian teams. Yeah, I think West Ham could beat either of them if they perform well at home and go away and just keep it tight. And then in the final, you'd get Atalanta or Benfica or Marseille. And again, neutral venue with Bowen, with Kudus, with Piketty, you'd have a chance. Like, you would have a real chance. And if Moyes could leave with 2 European trophies, he becomes very appealing to a lot of clubs.
Absolutely.
And he can always turn around and, like, if Moyes wins the Europa League, it's unlikely, but if Moyes wins the Europa League and West Ham decide to move on, the new manager comes in under enormous amounts of pressure.
You can have another spell at West Ham.
Form-wise, West Ham last 10, 12th. Fulham are 10th. Last 6, West Ham 8, Fulham 10th. Home form, West Ham way down in 16th, 1 win and 4 draws. Whereas Fulham's away form is 11th, 1 win and 2 draws. Injury-wise, Fulham have an injury. No, they don't. Armando Broja was thought to be injured, but it seems he's okay. He's okay. West Ham, no Areola. Bowen is out, and that's a huge blow. And we'll have to wait and see when he's going to be back. And obviously Calvin Phillips out as well. So they're not going to play this weekend, but they'll hope they have them both for Leverkusen at home. Do you know I'm actually going to go the Fulham win? I'll go 1-0 to Fulham in a dull game because I do think Moyes is going to eyeball that second leg against Leverkusen and think, you know what, we can come back and win this. So I'm going to go for 1-0 Fulham.
Yeah, I could kind of see anything in that game. It'll be interesting, but no Bowen's huge. On to the second half of the Super Sunday. Arsenal hosting Villa Day. I mean, it's weird what happens when you attack Arsenal, like Bayern Munich did. But again, I don't see Villa doing that. They've got a tight game against Lille, which is, I mean, the top four race is one thing, but winning a cup, and even if they do lose to Arsenal, which they probably would do anyway, because they're missing many players and Douglas Luiz is suspended, etc. Take Lille more seriously. You're still in the running for fifth, which could potentially get you Champions League. Seems unlikely now, but if they can attack Arsenal, they can score. But Premier League teams don't seem to be doing that anymore.
No, and Villa are a team that are set up to attack Arsenal because you've got Diaby and Bailey, who are that type of pacey, direct winger that causes Arsenal trouble. But I don't expect much from Villa in this game. Now, last 10, Arsenal are first and Villa are fourth. Last 6, Arsenal are first, but Villa are ninth.
Ooh.
Home form, Arsenal are second. Away form, Villa are fourth. Injury-wise, it's just Jurriën Timber for Arsenal. They've been very fortunate this season with injuries. Villa, no Boubacar Kamara, no Buendia, no Mings, no Ramsey. They're all done for the season. Matty Cash is out. Clement Longley is a doubt. He probably wouldn't start anyway. But Douglas Luiz being suspended is a huge blow because he was he had a really good first half of the season. He hasn't been very good since Kamara got injured, but he's still important to them with his set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these sides, though, like they've got huge European fixtures coming in the week, and Villa will at least have an extra day's rest before theirs. So they potentially could go full strength, but they've had 2 days less rest coming into it.
I don't think Arteta's ever rotated, though, has he?
Arteta doesn't really know how to rotate. So he's going to go strong as possible, I'd imagine, which is his first choice team, which he's had, the vast majority of the season. The only real decisions he has are, does he go Zinchenko or Kivor at left back? And does he go Martinelli or Jesus left wing? That's basically it. I'm going to pick Arsenal to win a comfortable 3-0 win.
Yeah, I think that one might be a tad boring, as probably this next one. On to the magnificent Monday Night Football, where Chelsea host Everton. Dave, we mentioned it earlier, Everton literally won a game for the first time in months due to Burnley goalkeeper passing the ball. He got caught on the ball, didn't he, if I remember correctly. And Chelsea, disappointing result last time out, means they're going to win. We worked this out 2 weeks ago. This is how it works. So Chelsea win.
Chelsea are so funny. Like, they're hilarious in so many ways. So, if we go back, right, let's say they lose the EFL Cup final to a Liverpool reserve team with a couple of starters. Then they struggle past Leeds with the last-minute goal in the FA Cup. Championship Leagues. Then they play Brentford. They go 1-up. They fall 2-1 down. They get a late equaliser. Then they play Newcastle. They go 1-up. Goes level. They go 3-1 up. Murphy scores, and then there's panic. But they win anyway, 3-2. Then they beat Leicester City 4-2 in the FA Cup. That game, they were 2-0 up. Leicester came back at the bridge to 2-2, then had Callum Doyle sent off, and Chelsea scored 2 very, very late goals to win that one. Then they play Burnley. Burnley have a man sent off. Chelsea go 1-up. Burnley get an equaliser. Then Chelsea go 2-1 up. And then Burnley equalise again despite playing with 10 men for the best part of an hour. Then they play United. The game is just bizarre. They're 2-0 up. It's 2-2. They're 3-2 down. It's 99 minutes. They're still 3-2 down, and then somehow they win the game 4-3. And then they play Sheffield United. And again, they go ahead. They get pegged back. They go back ahead. And then they give up a late goal to Ollie McBurn. They're just mental. Absolutely mental. Everton are awful, but so were Burnley and so were Sheffield United. And like, if you look at Chelsea's home results in the, let's just call it the Todd Bowley era, because we're probably going to be on manager number 4 of this shenanigan next season, because I have a feeling they're not going to stick with Poch.
Well, if he loses to Everton.
Well, if he loses to Everton, he deserves to go, like, let's be clear. But, like, why would you allow any manager time when you can just do mad things and sack them all? So, home defeats, right? Starts off pretty well. Their first home defeat is Arsenal. Then they lose at home to City. That's fine. Then they lose at home to Southampton. That's not good. They lose at home to Villa. They lose at home to Brighton. They lose at home to Brentford. So none of that is good, right? None of that's good. This season, it's even worse. They lose at home to Nottingham Forest. They lose at home to Villa, which is acceptable this year. They lose at home to Brentford. They lose at home to Wolves. They draw at home with Burnley. These are horrible results at home. Stamford Bridge used to be a place that everybody hated going. Now, teams rock up no matter where they are in the table and think, I will get something here. That's no problem. We'll get a point here at least. Form table. Last 10 games, Chelsea are 8th. Everton are 16th as a result of their win last weekend. They were bottom. Last 6, Everton are 17th. Chelsea are 6th. Home form, Chelsea are 5th. 4 wins, a draw and a defeat. Away form, Everton are 16th. No wins. Injury-wise, Chelsea, just catastrophic stuff going on there. No Fofana, no Lavia, no James, no Nkunku. Chilwell should be okay. Palmer's okay. Gusto's okay. But doubts over Disasi and Enzo and Raheem Sterling. Robert Sanchez is sick. Levi Colwill is out. Leslie Ogochukwu is out. I don't know what's going on there. Like, you spend all this money on these great accountants that you keep telling people about. Spend a bit of money on your medical staff. For the Ev, no Delhi, no Dobbin, probably no Danjuma, but Onana, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Calvert-Lewin, and James Garner should all be okay. I'm going for the draw. I'm going for 1-1. Everybody's bored to tears. The Everton goal is a set piece that takes at least 2 deflections and finds its way in. And Chelsea score a penalty through Cole Palmer. We're going 1-1. Because what else would we do?
That sounds about right. But what minute are Everton scoring on? The 97th or the 90th?
No, I think Everton will score a bit earlier.
Oh.
So I'm going to go Everton to score first. Probably, like 11 minutes in. And then get bombarded. And Pickford has one of those games where he looks like a competent goalkeeper. There's loads of last-ditch blocks and tackles and nicking the ball away and heading it clear and loads of bravery, all that good gammon stuff. And then a Chelsea runner breaks into the box and there's like a shirt pull and down he goes and it's a penalty.
Beautiful. And that's the last game for a fitting weekend.
And that's a wrap for today's show. And I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed recording. Before we part ways, let's take a moment to acknowledge the support of Sky Bet, the true champion of the fans. For over a decade, Sky Bet has not only sponsored the EFL, but also shown Sky Bet stands for the fans, ensuring our love of the game is always celebrated. And as we close, do remember, if you're engaging with betting, it's important to do so responsibly. Sky Bet reminds you that this is for those who are 18 plus. please visit begambleaware.org to get more information on responsible gambling. With Sky Bet, it's all about the fans. Until next time, keep the passion, keep it alive, and gamble responsibly. See you Monday. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.